So yes, we all have fears and life throws challenges at us. In 1999, life threw a lot of challenges at me. And one of them was to take a divorce. And let me tell you, it was not an easy task after 17 years of married life. However, I had to take that measure. I was penniless, I was homeless, I was jobless, I had no professional experience, and I was clueless as to how I'm going to survive. And I had a 16-year-old. I was riddled with fear, anxiety, hate, anger. Hate because of all that had happened to me. Anger because I believe in the institution of marriage, and here I was taking this drastic step. I now had to revise my emotions. I now had to change my temperament. Temperament is varied moods that define your emotional life. How was I to do it? I had to bring in a lot of self-regulation. I had to revise my emotions. I had to control them. I had to become even more adaptable for newer situations that were going to come to me. I had to self-motivate myself. I had to even build a lot of empathy in my life. So today, I'm going to speak to you on a topic that you and I live every day of our lives. And that which taught me so many things over these years, which I take to my classes in the hope that I may bring some change in the lives of others. I speak to you today on a topic that became a study in 1995. And some of which I'm going to speak to you may sound familiar. However, what happens is that at times, because of sheer ignorance, embarrassment, self-denial, and our ego, we are not ready to accept, and we don't find solutions to our problems. This is a study that took place in 1995 only because there was so much of unrest, unhappiness that was predominant in our lives. Psychologists, neurologists, psychiatrists, all PhDs sat down and studied as to why there is an emotional malaise. I speak to you on a topic that we call the EQ. It is still date a dilemma in the minds of the intelligentsia whether it is the EQ or the IQ that is responsible for your success. 80-20 is the ratio. 80 is your EQ and 20 is your IQ. So it is very easy to become angry with people, but to become angry with the right person, for the right purpose, at the right time, in the right way, it definitely is not easy. And this was said by Aristotle. So if I had to live by this and want to conduct myself correctly, I would first have to understand my emotions and then bring in the self-restraint. So what we have around us is an emotional malaise, that of desperation, despair, recklessness, rage, loneliness, marital violence, and depression. Depression is huge in India. You have 1 in every 4 suffering from depression in the age group of 13 and 15. And it affects 86 million across Southeast of Asia. You have 26,000 children in the last 3 years committing suicide, 1 in every hour. And what is the reason? Academic pressure, parental pressure, unrealistic demands by parents, and of course your peer pressure, where your peers don't understand you, they don't give you support. We, as individuals, have now gone into a culture of individualism where it is me, myself, and I. We have lost out on that value system that is so very important in our lives. The value system that once upon a time cocooned our family morals. Our value system and our belief system at one point in time made us believe that defeat and failures is only momentary and not a case of hopelessness. What we need to understand today is the personality development of a child. How is it that the personality actually develops? And we need to understand this very, very simply. We don't have to be very pedantic about that. Because it is the personality of the child that is going to determine finally his success or his failure. So when the child is in the womb of the mother, the personality is already developing over there. The mother needs to be in a state of happiness, joy, and peace. There should be an atmosphere that is conducive to the growth. Genes, you know, play a large role in your lives, in your personality. And every individual who interacts with the child leaves an indelible impress on the mind of the child. Traumatic experiences get lodged in the subconscious. However, the most important role is played by the mother. She plays the most pivotal role in the child because the child spends most of its time with the mother. So the way the mother thinks, the way the mother feels is how she's going to behave with the child. So if she's in this angry state of mind and she hurls invectives at the child and she says derogatory, very hurtful things to the child, you're naughty, you're useless, you're stupid, she compares the child to another, it's going to affect the self-concept of the child. It's going to affect his self-esteem. So I, again, as a single parent, I was at my wit's end one day with all the trauma going on in my life, and my daughter was a little difficult at that point in time. I said a few mean things to her. And a few years down the line, she said, "Mama, did you really mean all that you said?" So, what happens is that when you are interacting with a child, the emotional competence builds. To take this a little further ahead, I would like for you to understand that whilst the child develops, there is another important factor that we need to take care of, is our attitude in life. One of the reasons that children suffer is because, as Dr. David Kupfer said, the neglect of the child's needs at a particular point in time as the child is growing up and the indifference by the parents to the child can actually affect the child decades later. So the early stressors, they change the neuron development in the child. And later on in life, when there is the slightest bit of stress, it can actually affect you and you can become depressed. So, what I would like to let you know is that the next thing in your life, when you are looking and bringing up the child, nurturing the child, is the attitude that you carry to life. A lot of us forget about the attitude. What is the attitude? Your attitude is your state of mind. It's the emotions that drive your attitude. The 10% is what happens to you, and 90% is how you react to that particular thing of 10%, what has happened to you. And your reaction to that is based on your emotions. So as an image consultant, what happens is that I have to train a lot of people, and they think the image is all about your attire. The image is all about the way you talk, how you articulate your thoughts, your body language. Yes, all of that does hold true. However, beyond that is your attitude towards life. Another process, whilst looking at the personality development of a child, is called the attunement. The attunement is a very beautiful process where the mother spends a lot of time with the child when the child is actually an infant, not by just mimicking the child's action. She's got to let the child know that she feels what the child is feeling. She has to play back his inner feelings. This is the point in time when the emotional bond between the mother and the child develops. This is the point in time when you can nurture empathy in the child. This is the point in time when the child realizes that you can share your emotions. Empathy is lacking in today's world. And to give a very simple and beautiful example about empathy is when two infants, when they are playing together, if one cries, the other one cries, or he or she picks up a toy and gives it to the infant who's crying. What a beautiful act of empathy. So what we need to realize is that the emotional brain or the emotional seed actually develops in our infancy, in our childhood. What we need to understand is very simply the brain, the functioning of the brain. The brain, all of you are doctors and I'm sure you know much more than I do. However, what we need to understand is that there are 3 large areas in the brain that actually work in tandem to help us lead a harmonious life. You have you have the neocortex, the larger brain, which is your analytical brain. It's called the seat of thought, or it's your thinking brain. You have the limbic system, which has the hippocampus in it, which is responsible for your learning and memory. You have the amygdala, which is your emotional brain. It is small, the shape of an almond, but does a lot of work. And then you have the thalamus that takes in all the messages from your sensory organs, relays it to your amygdala. It is then analyzed, back to the amygdala it is sent, and then it is sent to your prefrontal lobe, which is your working memory. So your working memory is actually governed by your emotions 24/7. Your working memory is responsible for your cognitive skills. Your working memory is responsible, or is rather the control panel for your personality, as well as your communication ability. And all of this revolves around your emotions. So, over here, we have laid a lot of emphasis on our academic excellence, but what we have actually neglected is our emotional illiteracy. And EQ, which became a study, because of the emotional malaise that we have around us, EQ became a study. The psychologists, the psychiatrists, the neurologists, they all wanted to understand what is it that we can do to actually change our emotions. They studied it. And EQ asks you to work on 5 different parameters. One is self-awareness. So you need to become aware of the emotions that you're going through. Unless you become aware, you cannot bring in a change in your life. The next is self-regulation. When you become aware of your emotions, you're in a position to regulate them, to bring in the self-restraint that is so required. The third is your social skills. Your social skills are adaptability and flexibility to situations. Your social skills are interpersonal skills, your communication skills, your leadership skills. And all of these are dependent on your emotion. So if you've honed the first 2 parameters, you definitely can hone your social skills. The next thing that EQ asks you to do is to motivate yourself. Become more positive in life. We talk about positivity all the time. Learn to be able to counter any of your situations that come in your life with great positivity and optimism. Empathy is the next one that EQ asks you to work on. We need to build compassion in our lives. It is so lacking in our hectic life. Do we have the time to listen to another's woe? Do we take the time to listen to another's woe? It is the individualistic culture that we have, me, myself, and I. How do I grow? So, to take this further, temperament is given to us at birth, yes, by our genes. But can we really do something about it? Can we change it? I ask you, can you change your temperament? So, it is our experiences based on our thought process, on our thinking, that actually molds the neurological functioning of our brain. And yes, to answer that question, you can change your temperament. There was an experiment that was conducted. 75 students that were depressed in a high school in Oregon were made to challenge their thinking, and 55% of them came out of their depression. So the point here is, yes, you can change your thinking pattern if you really have the will or the desire to do so. But how do you do it? Is it easy? Is it difficult? A lot of you may have heard about affirmations, yes? Sometimes we overlook it. But affirmations is the language of the brain. The brain needs to be instructed every now and again. It's a beautiful organ that has been designed actually for your success. Because it is a creature of habit. And affirmations is all about repeating it. But when you repeat those affirmations, it becomes very important that you repeat it with a lot of self-belief, with a lot of emotions. No element of doubt. The reason being, you're sending messages to your emotional brain, and that emotional brain is transmitting those messages to your prefrontal lobe, which is your working memory. So you're revising your thought process by doing that. The other thing that you can do is meditate. You don't need to meditate for an hour or 2 hours. You're not renouncing the world. You need to meditate to be able to live in this world harmoniously, peacefully, happily. 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night. Start deep breathing. This is what I did all my life. It helped me. I take it to my students. Every class of mine starts with a bit of meditation. I do not start my class without that. So what do we do here? We deep breathe. When you're deep breathing, focus on your breath. How do you focus? By observing that the air is going through your nostrils into your lungs, and from your lungs out through your nostrils. It helps you to focus. And as you're breathing in, think of the positive things that you want. Let your affirmations be in the present tense and with great positive words. Take in the positivity, throw out the negativity because you're surrounded by it. Our thoughts are negative. So, Shakespeare said, character is destiny. The road forks in two. The choice that you make will define your destiny. But what is it that actually helps you to choose? It is your thoughts. Your thoughts create your character. So I would actually have to agree with Jerome Kagan, an eminent psychologist from Harvard University, who said, temperament is not destiny. Then what is it that creates your destiny? Your thoughts creates destiny. And I'm going to leave you with a lovely quote. Thank you so much.